Drones by Todd Robinson. Most importantly, let's start with what is a drone? Drones, also known as unmanned aerial vehicles, are aircrafts with no human pilot or passenger on board. Drones have the capability for precise navigation to collect data in real time for civilian use and even military use. Who is using drones? Drones are widely utilized across the United States by the military, federal agents, major retailers, and local public safety departments. And I know what you're wondering. What does that look like? So you have all DoD, right? Department of Defense. Those entities are some of the major ones that use it. Federal agents, FBI, um, CIA, and other agents like that also use it. Now, major retailers, which this one blew my mind, you have depending on where you are in the US, you have Amazon, Walmart, and even Lowe's if you are in the Midwest area, surprisingly. And as far as your public safety departments, you have, your local police stations and even your fire and rescue. Those have been ones that have been notated, right? So one of the major things that I wanted to utilize, right? So just thinking like, hey, where, like, who, where, and like, how does this apply, right? So let's start with the most simplest job, in my opinion, as a military personnel, right? Military drone operators, also known as unmanned aircraft systems, right? Are highly specialized personnel who remotely pilot unmanned aerial vehicles for reconnaissance, surveillance, intelligence gathering, and precise strikes, right? That can look like, hey, we need to rescue this person or get intel on this person. So they'll fly um, your most basic looking drones that look like your day to day ones that you see from children's play to just your local tech guy. And what I find interesting is that the military has a drone that is so small, it is smaller than a fly, and it has 4K cameras, facial recognition, and other cool things, right? Which stepping away from the military, right? Just the average salary for a drone operator in the United States is approximately $81,000 per year, which to some people, that's not a lot. To some people, that is a lot. And for just basics, you're slightly above average and you're living comfortably. All right. Next, let's talk about where are they using drones in America, right? In America, drones are mainly concentrated in commercial hubs like Los Angeles and Arizona, surprisingly, which I wasn't expecting Arizona. I would have probably bet on maybe Washington State or New York City, which surprisingly I did not see anything. Right. So some of the problems that these bigger states will run into are like, so starting for example, right? Los Angeles requires navigating complex Class B controlled airspace and strict local park ordinances. Right. So that's just like the most, I wouldn't say most, but just entry level, right? So in Arizona faces challenges with vast tribal and federal protected wilderness lands, which I did not know, which I feel like is surprising, right? I just didn't think of that when it comes to Arizona. But flying over those areas are restricted areas and can be punished with fines and even prison time, depending on how harsh they are, right? And some of the other issues that, flying a drone in Arizona will face is harsh extreme heat and high altitude density out, right? So just basic, like getting so high up in Arizona, you got a dry state, right? Like a dry state. And the temperatures can reach up to roughly 115 degrees on average, which for most people, even your local tech guy, even if you think of your phone, when technology gets too hot, it starts to fail, right? Why are drones being used in America? Which this one I found interesting. Drones are being used for multiple reasons, such as logistics and delivery. So, like I mentioned earlier, you have your basic Walmart deliveries, you have your Lowe's deliveries, you have your Amazon deliveries, which all can be flown on a drone, surprisingly. Um, for our construction people out there, blue collar workers, they use it for infrastructure inspections, just checking on things, making sure it looks right in high enough places where unfortunately sometimes you might not be able to get to because, hey, you might not have a ladder or you might not have a lift or whatever you have it, right? Um, Even in agriculture, checking on far parts of your land because your tractor's down or your equipment's down, getting a head count on animals while you're sick in bed. So it gives you that opportunity to work, but also, kind of be lazy about it. And like we mentioned earlier briefly, military operations, right? So one of the companies that I found interesting is DJI, right? Is a company based in China and is the pretty much one of the pioneers of the drone industry, right? And their products can range from your basic compact travel models, right, to like and when I say that, it can be your small compact ones that you can fit in a backpack, a luggage, or even as small as a GoPro, right, to your heavy duty lifting commercial platforms, which they have started to test. Nothing that I've read just yet has proven that it is in actual operations, but they have tried to use some of their heavier lifting platforms for basic recovery of people and even animals. So that was extremely interesting to me. When are they using drones? So mass adaptions of drones in America is mainly used in like your package and deliveries, right? We hit that nail on the head when we discussed Amazon, Lowe's, Walmart, and all of those things, right? We also hit this one on the head, but I'm going to mention it again because I thought it was extremely interesting. Drones as a first responder, right? So that is actually something that I read. I believe it was Connecticut and Massachusetts have tried and even have gone to the fact of hiring personnel for these jobs, right? Um, I think that'd be extremely interesting to see, and I think it'll be very helpful, right? And even agriculture. Like I said, seeing animals, seeing different parts of your land. For our friends over in California, wildfires. Sometimes you don't want to risk getting your people in there, so you can probably fly a drone as high and nearby as possible to kind of scope it out the best way to execute getting that fire out, right? So some of those issues that you run into, right, which we all know, everything has its limits. So strict federal aviation administration regulations, right? Basically making sure, hey, I'm qualified to fly this. I know what I'm doing. I know my do's and my don'ts. So just making sure you know that, right? Again, basic supply chain hurdles, right? So, hey, somebody might order, let's say, 90 by fours, right? Which can possibly be too heavy for a drone. So you got to kind of weigh out your options of, hey, do I want to advertise this product and let our customers down because we can't get it due to weight or whatever? So that's some of the issues that they would find. Privacy issues. Sometimes flying in the air, you're high, but you're also could be low enough to where you're riding nearby somebody's land and they might be out there tanning, having family time, or just don't want to be in a public eye, you know? And of course, your community backlash. So community backlash, let's tackle that one for a second. That is something that again goes without saying, may just be normal to some people to a certain degree. Like, hey, sometimes you can put the best thing on the market and advertise it and talk about it. You're always going to have those Debbie Downers. You're always going to have the people who are against it. So you'll have to hear about those gripes. And so that is some of the research that I've done on this project. Now I will leave you guys with two truths and a lie. let's see which one you guys can find, right? So, first fact, or, something interesting here is in Switzerland, 3 cows have been located and rescued with a drone. In Tennessee, it is illegal to fly drones from 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. And lastly, which let's see. Local TVs have a AI version to where it looks like you're watching TV, but you are currently tapped into someone's drone. All right. So leave me a comment below. Let's see if you guys can find out the two truths and a lie.